Supreme Court rules on a major abortion case. A commander for Hamas defects to Israel, and West Virginia suffers through its worst flooding in more than 30 years. This is SkyWatch TV for Monday, June 27th, 2016. I'm Derek Gilbert. First up, Britain votes for Brexit. By a 52-48 vote, British citizens voted Thursday to leave the European Union. For the first time since the mid-1950s, the EU will apparently lose a member. Prime Minister David Cameron, who supported the Remain vote, announced his resignation effective October. He'll step down then and leave it to his successor to negotiate terms of Britain's departure. And at the moment, his successor appears to be former London Mayor Boris Johnson. About 55% of England and Wales voted leave. The full tally was closer than that because Northern Ireland and Scotland voted heavily in favor of Remain. And there's some speculation, in fact, that Scotland might hold a second referendum for independence, leave the UK so that it can rejoin the European Union, although a poll just released today indicates that Scots have no stomach for a second referendum on leaving the UK. Even if they were, ironically, there might not be an EU if Scotland were to leave the UK. Groups in France, the Netherlands, Austria, Finland, Denmark, and Hungary are saying they'd like to follow the UK's lead and get out of the European Union. So what happens next? Well, Britain has to present a formal notice of its intent to leave to the European Union. That will start a 2-year negotiating period. The referendum, interestingly enough, is not legally binding. So technically, Parliament could decide to ignore the referendum, although that would be politically risky. About 33 million people turned out to vote on Thursday. But if they would, well, decide to ignore the vote, that is, just, welcome to our world here in the U.S. 2/3 of us didn't want Obamacare, the bank bailouts, or the GM bailouts, and we got those anyway. So what does this mean practically? Well, today the financial markets are in turmoil, continuing a trend that began on Friday. U.S. stocks dropped about 2% on Friday, down another 275 points by midday today, Monday. That's another 1.6%. That's a drop of about 900 points in all since Thursday when the vote total was announced. Bank stocks are taking it especially hard. Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, Citi, Bank of America, all down between 6 and 12.5%. Citi and Bank of America both down over 12%. But I haven't heard a good reason why yet. The only explanation I can suss out from the experts who are trying to pontificate on this is that speculators are nervous because investors don't like uncertainty. And banks are so interconnected anymore because of shared risk, default risks, that when one goes down, they all go down. Now, ironically, all of these drops in bank stocks happening just 2 days after the Federal Reserve Bank announced the results of its most recent round of stress tests on 33 large American banks, in which the Fed found that none of the 33 would need additional capital in the event of a severe financial meltdown. We may just see about that. Well, not surprisingly, many progressives and globalists are really upset about this vote, and they're chalking it up to angry white people, in a nutshell. CNN anchor Christiane Amanpour, commenting, said the decision to leave was motivated by xenophobia, fear of outsiders, and white identity politics. All politics are identity politics. Trying to chalk this up to racism doesn't make anybody who voted to leave any more willing to hear your side of the story. It's insulting. Amanpour said this is a victory for the kind of xenophobia that will imperil the liberal world order that has guaranteed Western prosperity since World War II. Well, you know, of course, that there's no rule that says that network news commentators have to be intelligent or honest. Forgive me for being blunt, but I find this kind of talk insulting and condescending. Is that people who question what our globalist world masters tell us is best for us is due to the fact that we're ignorant or bigoted. And besides, it was not liberal values that led to Western prosperity after World War II. Frankly, in large part, it was because the United States and Canada had been mostly left alone, while the rest of the world's industrialized powers had been bombed back to the Stone Age. But more than that, and primarily, it was due to the Judeo-Christian values, morals, and work ethic that led to prosperity here. And as we dilute it, as we lose those, we're sliding into a devastating, dehumanizing cycle of dependence on government handouts to give us just enough to survive and then keep us distracted with entertainment so that we forget about what it was that we've lost. And I realize that saying these things is making me sound like I'm the kind of person that Christian Amanpour was talking about. But facts are facts. They are stubborn things. And sooner or later, well, it appears that the vote on last Thursday and, frankly, the success of Donald Trump in the election cycle so far is due to the fact that people are waking up to this realization. Well, today the Supreme Court struck down Texas' regulation of abortion clinics, the court's biggest abortion case ruling in more than 20 years. Justices voted 5-3 in favor of clinics that argued that regulations were just a thinly veiled attempt to make it more difficult for women to obtain an abortion. Now, the state of Texas had argued that its 2013 law requiring clinics to meet hospital-like standards for outpatient surgery and for abortion doctors to have admitting privileges at nearby hospitals was required to guarantee the health of women who wanted to have an abortion. Well, the 5 liberal justices on the court, of course, disagreed. The 3 siding with the state of Texas were Anthony Kennedy, Clarence Thomas, and Chief Justice John Roberts. Justice Thomas wrote that the decision exemplifies the court's troubling tendency to bend the rules when any effort to limit abortion or even to speak in opposition to abortion is at issue. End quote. At least 26 people have died in West Virginia, the worst flooding there since 1985. 8 counties have been especially hard hit with high water after 8 to 10 inches of rain fell there within 8 hours on Thursday. 66,000 people lost power. More than 100 homes have been destroyed or washed away. The United Nations says that more Central Americans are on their way north to try to cross the Rio Grande. A volunteer with Catholic Charities in McAllen, Texas, told a reporter there last week that up to 100 people a day caught by Border Patrol are dropped off at the McAllen bus station. The United Nations says it's due to an increase in gang violence in Honduras and El Salvador. Now, oddly, the report from KRGV television in McAllen didn't say what happens to those migrants after they're dropped off at the bus station. The number of unaccompanied children crossing the border has jumped more than 75% over last year in terms of the numbers apprehended by the Border Patrol. The government is spending $100 billion on 100 state-licensed shelters for unaccompanied children. But the National Border Patrol Council President Brandon Judd told Congress back in May, and I quote, "If you are arrested in the United States and you ask for any sort of asylum, what we do is we will process you and we will walk you right out our front door, give you a pat on the back and say, 'Welcome to the United States,'" end quote. In effect, it is de facto amnesty. Well, an odd story on the Great Lakes. The Coast Guard is investigating what they're calling an unknown sheen on Lake Ontario. Officials got a report Sunday of a sheen on the lake near the Fitzpatrick Nuclear Power Station, located about 40 miles north of Syracuse, New York. Coast Guard has set up a temporary safety zone about 2 miles out from the plant on the water, taking some samples of the water that are being analyzed now. If you live in Hawaii and you own a gun, the FBI is soon going to know who you are. Governor David Ige signed a bill into law last Thursday, placing residents who own firearms in a federal criminal record database. Hawaii, now the first state in the union to enroll people who own guns in an FBI monitoring service called RAPBAC. It will notify Hawaii police when a firearm owner from Hawaii is arrested anywhere in the United States. A senior member of Hamas is believed to have defected to Israel. The alleged defector, named as Bassam Mahmoud Baraka. His father is believed to be a religious judge in the Gaza Strip, working under Hamas authority. Baraka, a top member of the Al-Qassam brigades, who specializes in tunnel warfare, those tunnels that Hamas has been digging under the border from the Gaza Strip into Israel. News of the defection first reported on the website of Al-Hayat al-Jadida, which is the official newspaper of the Palestinian Authority, which is based in the West Bank. And you know, of course, that the PA and Hamas do not get along. Al Hayat reports that Baraka's family has been told by the Red Cross that Baraka is in Israeli hands. He apparently crossed the border, turned himself in to Israeli soldiers carrying a laptop. And a curious twist in the story of normalized relations between the United States and Cuba. The heirs of mafia moneyman Meyer Lansky want damages for the loss of Lansky's casinos in Havana, specifically the Riviera. Fidel Castro nationalized those casinos after the revolution in 1959. Lansky ran a very profitable gambling business in Cuba for about a quarter of a century. Now his daughter, her son, and her brother have filed a compensation claim against Cuba for the Riviera Hotel and Casino with the U.S. Foreign Claims Settlement Commission. The Riviera was opened in December of 1957. All 440 rooms were booked solid through the winter season there of 57-58. It was the largest mafia casino outside Las Vegas. Lansky's heirs say it should be valued at about $70 million. Meyer Lansky died in 1983 at the age of 80, lived out his last years quietly in Miami Beach. And finally, prominent members of the Apostolic Prophetic Movement had a meeting with Pope Francis in Rome earlier this month. Mike Bickle of IHOP KC, Shay Ahn of Harvest International, Chris Valaton of Bethel Church in Redding, California, and Stacy Campbell, purports to be a prophetess, had a private meeting with the Pope along with dozens of other Protestant leaders on June 10th. Now, this is a trend that we've been seeing with Pope Francis over the last couple of years, an ongoing outreach to Protestants in general, but to charismatic and Pentecostal Protestants in particular. The group I mentioned at the beginning of this story are part of something called the New Apostolic Reformation, a belief that God has restored the offices of apostle and prophet to the church. And when I say apostle and prophet, I mean apostle and prophet in the biblical sense. That's significant because the apostles in the Bible wrote the New Testament. And that is significant because both the New Apostolic Reformation and the Roman Catholic Church rely heavily on extra-biblical revelation for their understanding of what is to happen in the end times. Both groups believe that they will be God's government on earth during the end times. They're both wrong because it's not in the Bible anywhere. But again, they're getting additional revelation that they value as authoritative as the Word of God contained in the Bible. This is one of the key points of the recent book, the new book by Tom Horn and Chris Putnam, The Final Roman Emperor, the Islamic Antichrist, and the Vatican's Last Crusade, that false prophecies, and specifically they refer to the apocalypse of Pseudo-Methodius, a 7th century apocryphal, pseudepigraphal work that speaks of the coming final Roman emperor, a righteous Catholic king who will conquer the world for Christ. I was surprised to learn that there are still Roman Catholics who take that prophecy very seriously. But that prophecy also inspired the hadiths about the Mahdi, which is what's motivating the Islamic State to declare the caliphate and push for a climactic battle against the Crusaders, the forces of Rome. False prophecies leading to inevitable conflict between groups, Christian, Muslim, who believe that they're fighting for God. And that's essentially the thesis of my presentation coming up at the Rocky Mountain International Prophecy Conference in a few weeks. So we'll talk more about that in just a minute. An exciting announcement for SkyWatch TV beginning this week, Wednesday. We add another coast-to-coast outlet for SkyWatch TV. It is World Harvest Television. That is channel 367 on DirecTV. Channel 367. Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. Central Time. That follows the Jim Baker program on World Harvest Television. Again, DirecTV channel 367. You'll see our program this week when we begin to talk about what America has lost and how we might get it back. It's the new book, When Once We Were a Nation. Features 12 chapters from different authors, each covering a different topic. And this week on SkyWatch TV, Tom Horn, Chris Putnam, Sharon Gilbert, and Ellie Anderson talk about the chapters they contributed to the new book, When Once We Were a Nation. What have we lost, and what might we do to get it back? We can't get it back if we don't remember what it was we once had. The program airs today on the Victory Television Network down in Arkansas and around Memphis. Tomorrow, 4 different locations, including Coast to Coast on the Christian Television Network. Then Wednesday on the Cornerstone Network, Coast to Coast, and World Harvest Television, our first program there on WHT. Then again on Saturday. We also have content you can only get exclusively online. Besides this daily news report or commentary as I blather about things I think are important, you'll also get Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck and Christina Peck as they look at the very fabric of reality itself. Sci Friday, a look at science news of the week, and interviews that we can't fit into our network television schedule. This week, another interview with Opal Singleton, this time talking about how video games connected to the internet are a portal for predators into your home. How predators are using video games to get at your children and grandchildren. It's another important interview available only as a web exclusive at SkyWatchTV.com and the SkyWatch TV channels on Roku, YouTube, and Vimeo. And if you need a more portable version of the programs we put out on SkyWatch TV, SkyWatch TV podcast, updated every single day of the week, you'll find a link to it and instructions on how you can add it so that it downloads directly to your computer, tablet, smartphone, or MP3 player, iPod or whatever. Those instructions posted at SkyWatchTV.com. Look in the top menu bar there for the link that says Podcast. The Rocky Mountain International Prophecy Conference coming up in just a few weeks. It's been sold out since, well, last year, but you can still bring it to your home. 40 presentations, 26 speakers in live, full HD video. For more information on the packages available and to sign up, log on to prophecywatchers.com. June is still here, and in honor of Father's Day in June, our gift, our thank you for your support of any amount. The books, The Man in the Mirror, Solving the Problems Men Face, and The Fisherman's Guide to Life, something Dad might appreciate and benefit from. We'll send those to you in the U.S. and Canada for your donation of any amount during the month of June. For details and to donate, log on to skywatchtv.com/donate. And your mouse finger can be a great help to us as well, at no cost to you. Click share, click like, click subscribe. And if you've got comments or questions for me, send those along to dgilbert@skywatchtv.com. We thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV. Save nearly half off the cover price when you subscribe now to the brand new SkyWatch TV magazine. For a limited time, a 5-year subscription to SkyWatch TV magazine is just $99. That's more than $75 off the cover price, which is like getting 2 years for free. Exclusive content, articles on prophecy, discovery, and the supernatural from Tom Horn, Chris Putnam, Josh Peck, science updates from Sharon K. Gilbert, geopolitics from yours truly, and guest writers like Pulitzer Prize-nominated journalist Troy Anderson, renowned Bible scholar Dr. Michael Heiser, Pentagon advisor Lieutenant Colonel Bob McGinnis, and more. But there is more. As an early subscriber, you'll be the first to get this new book from Defender Publishing. I predict what 12 global experts believe you'll see by 2025. This is a $20 value and includes best-selling authors like Joel Richardson, Mark Biltz, Carl Gallups, Tom Horn, Paul McGuire, and more. Find out what they think about the coming war between ISIS and the Vatican, the future of the Temple Mount and the Ark of the Covenant, a worldwide manifestation of angels, and the coming age of human hybrids. And we'll also add this DVD, The Best of SkyWatch TV 2015, a $25 value, including our most compelling interviews from last year, including Chuck Missler, Steve Quayle, the discussion of the Georgia Guidestones with Chris Pinto, and more. All of this together worth more than $200. Yours now for just $99. Subscribe now. SkyWatch TV magazine. Just call the number on your screen or log on to skywatchtvstore.com.